My guest is Lucy Cohen. Lucy's an author, an entrepreneur. She founded Mazuma Accountants when she was only 23. And today we talk about all sorts of things: powerlifting, starting a business, the kind of prejudice that she experienced as a woman in the accountancy sector, and many more. I know you're really going to enjoy today's podcast. So please like and subscribe down below if you want to see more of this content. And without further ado, please let me introduce Lucy Cohen. So, Lucy Cohen.
Yes, that's me.
Tell me about powerlifting, because I'm really interested.
We're going straight into powerlifting, not business. Yeah. Cool. All right. Yeah. So I've always been quite an active person. Like when I was a kid, I danced and played sports and stuff. And as I got to become an adult, as a woman growing up through the 90s and early 2000s, like massively struggled with body image. So when I got into my late 20s, I wanted to take up something that wasn't about what I looked like, was about what I could do. So I just started seeing this personal trainer, and he said, "You are freakishly strong. So we should like put you in a competition because it's good to have something to aim for." I competed locally and I won. And somebody from British Powerlifting was there and said, "You should think about doing more of this." So I did. And it means that I was on the Welsh team for, I think, 5 or 6 years. I was on the British team for a couple of years. I'm a Commonwealth powerlifting silver medalist. I went to the World Championships, went to the European Championships. Yeah, I got to travel the world lifting weights.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive stuff. Do you think that has that actually come into business at all, that kind of building strength and the sort of mentality that goes behind that kind of thing?
So I think business and sports have got a lot in common. Yeah. I think especially if you're a leader of a business, I think that work ethic, that knowing that you're taking the good days and the bad days, it's not linear to an end result, knowing that there are certain things you can control and certain things you can't control. Both of those things are really true in sport, and they're hugely true in business. So for me, there are huge comparisons to be drawn there. I also think powerlifting for me was a real mental challenge, because I back myself any day of the week to talk myself into or out of anything in a room. Get me in a room and I'll be able to kind of explain myself and articulate things. You can't do that on a stage in powerlifting. You're either strong enough on the day or you're not. I can't go and argue with the judges and say, "I know I didn't really lift that, but couldn't you? Can we make some allowances here?" It's just a yes or a no. So for me, that was a huge kind of mental barrier to overcome. And it massively put me outside of my comfort zone, which if you've been in business a long time, you're so used to being outside of your comfort zone in one way. I think it's amazing to challenge yourself in another way of doing that. So yeah, just putting yourself outside your comfort zone and taking those incremental gains. You know, when I see a lot of kind of novice lifters who'll go into their first competition and say, "I want to break all the records," not realizing that on the day it's very different to training the gym. And then at their next competition want to add like 10, 15 kilos to their total lifts. You might do that when you're new, same as in business. That first couple of years, you're going to be able to say stuff like, "My churn rate is almost 0 and we've got 100% retention," or "We've grown by 200% in a year," or whatever it's going to be. You can do that in those early stages. It's what we call newbie gains in lifting. You can't do that as you go on and things progress and you pick up injuries or your strength gains are just slower. You have to really think about the long game and about adding a little bit every time consistently. And I think that's so true in business as well. You're just about iterative improvement and incremental gains and being consistent. And it's that consistency over everything else that will get you where you want to be.
Okay, fantastic. And talking about starting a business then, so you started Mazuma when you were 23?
23, what a fool.
I believe I heard you say that you started it because the accounting profession was male, pale and stale.
Yeah.
Is it still?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. There are obviously some fantastic examples of women changing the status quo. And we have way more role models in the space than we used to. But demographically, and when you look at certainly in leadership, management, C-suite, firms turning over £1 million, those firms are still following that kind of profile of being male-led in the sector.
Okay. So how do we go about sort of changing that? Do you have like a strategy for addressing the?
Well, I've been making a lot of noise over the last 18 years, and in the last year in particular have been focused on this. So myself and a good friend of mine, Steve Cox, did a keynote at Accountex this year, where we talked in 2024, where we talked about the representation of female, women-led, women-founded firms that turn over £1 million, and there are a depressingly low number of them comparative to the 94,000 firms that exist within the UK. We found 43.
Okay.
That's a really depressing statistic.
Yeah.
So I think shining a light on data like that is hugely important. And then asking for change. So going out to the accounting bodies and saying, we're talking a game here. We're saying you want diversity, you want equality. Put your money where your mouth is. What are we doing about this? And how can we work together collaboratively to kind of move the needle on this issue? Because it's moving way too slowly. So just continuing to kind of bang the drum on it, really, raise awareness and not being scared to talk about it. I think I've been around long enough now that I've earned the privilege to be able to rock the boat, I think, without me being too worried about it kind of impacting other areas. It's hard to do that when you're new. But yeah, I'm old enough and ugly enough to bear that now.
Okay. Did you find there was pushback when you first started Mazuma, like personally, like actually starting the business? Was there a bit of a prejudice against a female-led?
Oh yeah, massively. I used to get asked, was it my dad's business? Was I the PA? Yeah, all kinds of stuff. And in fact, it's something that I noticed just the other day. So I went to the event, and it happens when there's more than one of us there at a time. So as a woman on my own in places, it happens less. If I'm paired up with another one of my C-suite or my co-founder, I tend to find this exchange happens a lot. I will go to an event, I don't know somebody. Again, it's business, it's still very male dominated. It's usually in these scenarios, an older gentleman, and they'll ask what I do, and I'll tell them what I do, and then they're kind of, you could see on their face kind of a little bit surprised at how large the company is, and that I'm the face of it. And then I get this sentence, or we get this sentence, we go, "Oh, well done, girls," which I'm sure it's said with the right intent, but it's incredibly patronising. I'm not a girl, I am a fully grown woman. But also, you probably wouldn't say that to two 41-year-old male founders who've grown a multi-million-pound company. You probably would go, "Oh, well done, boys." Like you just wouldn't do it. So I do find that still exists. And again, like I said, it's probably not conscious. They're probably not trying to be condescending. But the fact that is the natural reaction when you get more than one of us combined together, I think is still interesting.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. You've been described as a bit of a disruptor when it comes to the accounting profession. Do you like that title?
Oh, I'm not hugely into like the labeling thing, because as soon as you start labeling something, people aspire to be it. But I certainly think that having a disruptive nature, if you're trying to create an entrepreneurial business, is no bad thing. And I think that there are industries that are ripe for disruption. Anything where you've got a demographic of people who are slow to change and you can identify the commercial benefits of them doing it, yeah, why not go and disrupt that? There are some fantastic examples of disruptive businesses. People say about not reinventing the wheel. Let's reinvent the wheel. The wheel got invented at some point. Let's improve it. We didn't reinvent the wheel. Our end product is tax and accounts compliance work, but the way in which we did it has been reinvented. Just like other very notable companies, Airbnb, Uber, they didn't reinvent the wheel, but they did it in a really, clever, disruptive, industrious way that has meant that they've kind of got huge market share or seen exponential growth. So I don't mind the term disruptor. If that's a label that people identify with, and I'm encouraging other people to step out of their comfort zones and do something, and maybe they want to identify with that label, then yeah, cool, if it gets that result. But yeah, I just like to think of myself as just getting what needs to be done.
Okay. Talking about getting what needs to be done. I've heard you talk about sort of getting out of your own way.
Yeah.
How do I know if I'm getting in my own way?
It's patterns of thought.
Okay.
So when you approach a challenge or something, I don't know, something new lands at your feet for you to try, what's your natural reaction? What's the first thing you do with that? Are you saying, "Oh, I couldn't do that," or "I'm not sure I could do that"? Those tiny thought patterns that we have, and we have all of them. We have something ridiculous, like tens of thousands of thoughts per day. go through our little brains. I think there's estimates anywhere between 50,000 to 100,000 individual thoughts per day. You get in your own way where you've got up in the morning and you're a little bit tired and you tell yourself you're tired, and then you spend all day telling yourself you're tired, and you don't hurl yourself into performing as brilliantly as you can because you've got this little voice in your head going, oh, I'm tired. Just do it anyway, just turn up. It's going back to sports and training and the gym. You can be tired, not feel great, and not want to get your workout in, and you've got every excuse. I don't feel well, I'm tired, I've been traveling, it's late. You're getting in your own way of your progress by not showing up. It might not be the best workout you've ever done, true, but first thing to do, get yourself to the front door of that gym and tell yourself, I don't need to step through the doors, I'm just gonna get there. And then, okay, I'm just gonna go through the doors, and then, well, I may as well warm up. And by the time you've done that, you actually started your workout and you feel good about it. Might not be your best one, but it's better than nothing. And I think we live it, kind of getting in your own way involves thinking that everything you're going to do is going to be, you're going to have the optimal scenario for it every time. In business, in sport, in life, you have to perform in suboptimal conditions constantly. It's about recognizing that's just a thing that happens. There's never a perfect time or moment, and just getting what can be done regardless. Okay.
Do you think some of it's rooted in fear?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. We're naturally fearful of change. Yeah. We're meant to be. Our brains like to form patterns, and our brains don't like to change because the energy it takes to reform a habit. You've heard people say things like it takes 21 days or something to create a new habit. I think maybe it's longer, depending on who you are. I actually find habit forming really hard. I have the world's least addictive personality, but also I find it very hard to form a habit. So I don't have that thing that kind of keeps me engaged in something. So I have to rely on systems and just making myself do stuff to get me to do the right things. If I left it to motivation, I'd never do it. So we are fearful, and it takes a huge amount of energy for our brains to learn new process. So it's, even if the old process is bad or slow, we would rather do that because the energy and effort of learning a new one takes up so much energy. And it's all rooted down to us as humans having brains that just want us to survive. That old reptilian brain is going, oh, new thing, not sure of it, the old thing sort of works, I'm just going to stay in my comfort zone. But fear's natural. And I'm scared constantly. Like every day my business grows. I've never run a business of this size before. Every single day I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, I've never run a business this big before. It's every day's a new thing. You just have to, do things scared. You can still do stuff when you're scared. Just go and do it. But you have to learn to do that. It doesn't come naturally to me. Fear exists. I'm scared of things all the time.
That's good to know.
Yeah, always scared of stuff.
Fantastic. Okay. You mentioned systems there. Mm-hmm. What sort of systems do you have in place to make sure you get stuff done?
So it's evolved over the years. Motivation is rubbish. Like, never rely on motivation. It will get you nowhere. Motivation, when you're feeling rubbish after New Year's Eve, will get you to not order a takeaway that evening. That's it. It will not last you into the end of February, but habits will. Right. So getting into habits, and if you can't form habits, like I can't, because my brain isn't wired that way, you need to have systems. So you need to have things you do. And thankfully now we have all kinds of technology that can help us, and all kinds of people that can help us. So mine used to be literally lists. Every day would have a copy and paste list of, end of the day, what have I got to do the next day? And a lot of that stuff was the same things, but it's just crossing it off the list every day. That's the system. You can use apps to use AI to rearrange your diary. I now have an assistant who makes sure I turn up at places where I'm supposed to be, so that I don't have to expend the energy to do that stuff, and she'll just make sure I'm there. She'll remind me why I'm turning up to a meeting, stuff like that. But there's all kinds of systems that you can use. You don't necessarily need an assistant. It's only recently I've ever been able to afford one. But you can use technology, you can use your calendar, you can use automated email reminders for things, whatever it needs, whatever works for you to keep you kind of clicking through what you have to do every day. Yeah, just do that. And some of it will be repeat tasks you'll need to do. A lot of us will need to do the same thing every day. So have a system and do it. Time blocking, all that kind of stuff, it makes sense. Some people do day blocking. So they'll do a day of like certain tasks and then another day of creative work. Find the one that works for you and then stick to it consistently.
Okay, brilliant. Useful advice. What do you do that helps you get the most out of the people that you work with?
They might
moving into sort of leadership now.
They might give you different answers to what I give you.
Okay.
Maybe ask
what
them.
do you think they would say?
I think they'd say I'm quite a hard person to work for.
Okay.
I expect a lot from people. I expect that when people show up to work for me, that they do bring the best version of themselves that day, taking into account that it's never perfect. You're going to have some days where you're smashing it and some days where you aren't, but to apply as much effort as you possibly can on every day to things, I do expect people to show up. But then I reward people for that. I like to think we do. We provide loads of benefits as a company. We provide career progression. We're growing rapidly. All the things we said we were going to do ever since we first formed, high growth company, growing from just 2 of us in a spare bedroom up to, we're 70 plus people now. All the things I said I was going to do, I've done. So it's kind of a case of look, and it's explaining as well. I think it's working for a growing company and working for a rapidly scaling company is really, really challenging. It is a challenging thing, and it isn't for everybody. If you want to just do the same thing every day for the next 30 years, like working for me is 100% not for you. If you want to stay in your comfort zone, don't work for me at all. If you want somebody who coddles you and gives you kind of, oh, well done for more basic things, again, that's not me. But I think working for a scaling company is way more interesting than working for a shrinking one. And there are plenty of companies out there where there's rounds of redundancies, where there's uncertainty. There's always uncertainty, but I think the growing uncertainty is more fun than the shrinking uncertainty. There's opportunity there, whereas there's protection there. And I think that's, I think that's a more interesting space to be in if you have that mindset. And then I think, it's about understanding the why. So what, and it doesn't have to be, I don't expect everyone in the company to understand the overall strategic, goals of the organization. That's for me to work on, but understanding how they slot into that and why the role that they do is important and why if it's not done, it's going to impact things. I think that's really important. Also the wider impact to our customers, our customers and clients use us because they don't like doing compliance and tax work, or they can't do it. Actually, what we're giving them isn't just a set of accounts and tax returns. We're giving them the time to go to their kids' school play or the time to take a summer holiday. Those things, it's the real human part of business. And I think it's kind of getting people bought into that part of it more than kind of the numbers, the profit shares, all that kind of stuff. People actually respond to that human bit, I think, more readily.
Okay. What's your why? Why do you do what you do?
Such a good question. I love small businesses. I love micro businesses because they are everywhere, everything. You go down any high street. I drove in here now. You're just going to see 20 of them. Nail salons, hairdressers, bakeries, print shops, graphic designers, small offices, legal firms. They're all small businesses. I think historically they get overlooked as kind of drivers of economic growth because they're one. We look at huge companies. What can bringing huge manufacturing plants to the UK? What can that do? How many jobs, hundreds of jobs, can that one business create? Instead of looking at the millions of jobs that the millions of small businesses can create. 6 million small businesses in the UK. If every single one of them employed somebody, that's an additional 6 million jobs. And we never kind of look at it from that economic impact. And so because of that, I think they get really poorly served. And so my why is about giving them the opportunity to fulfill their potential. And I saw it with my family. I saw the stress they were under when it was tax return time, and it wasn't fun to be around. And that had a human impact on us as kids. So if I can stop that happening, I think that's a win. That's it, really.
Great answer. Such a good answer. What is leadership to you?
It's different things on different days, I think. I think on your best days, it's the most rewarding thing you can do. I think it's when you've led people, especially if it's something quite challenging and you've come out the other side of it and you have that real kind of like high, that's when I tell you it's the best thing in the world. On days when I've quite often said, like in business, your best day and your worst day can be the same day. Literally, you're existing in two spaces at one time. I remember I was winning the Business Book Awards for a book I'd written, and in the hotel in full black tie garb, before I had to go out on stage, I was having to do a grievance hearing via Zoom in the company. And like those two things, leadership then has to exist. You're in those two spaces at one time, and that's really, really hard. I think being a good leader is subjective. Some people will massively respond to my leadership style. Some people just really won't. But for me, as the CEO of the company, is making sure that I've got enough people with different skill sets around me to be able to slot in to lead people in the way they need to be led, so that everybody is able to advance. Everyone's got their own oar, everyone's got their own cog, whatever you want to call it. It's making sure the people kind of helping you drive that is the right one for that team or person. And then my job really is pulling everybody in the same direction to get the end result for the greater good.
We'd like to do like sort of a tradition running through them called the secret sauce section, where I ask you just a few questions that are like quick fire, couple of words perhaps.
Okay.
Just to finish off. So, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Do it scared. That's it.
Okay. What's a small everyday action that you believe makes a big difference to sort of your business or your own kind of mental well-being?
Get outside for at least 15 minutes every day. Just go for a walk. Just get yourself away from your screen. That's it.
Fantastic. Last one. What's one book, podcast, or resource that's been a game changer for you?
Oh, right. I can't give a quick answer on this one,
Fine.
but I'm going to have to tell you why, because I'm obsessed with this book. So one that was a game changer for me was the story of Theranos, and I read the book Bad Blood by John Carreyrou, I think his name is. And it was a story of obviously the kind of the rise and fall of Theranos in Silicon Valley and Elizabeth Holmes and that whole kind of saga. The reason it was a game changer for me was because it really opened my eyes to the bigger business piece and the wider kind of machinations of kind of what happens in businesses. And it just gave me a huge amount of perspective about the zeros and the numbers they were dealing with. It was so inconceivable to me. It just made my problem seem really small. So that feeling of insignificance in comparison actually was kind of freeing. And I remember my brain kind of clicking as I was reading this book going, okay, that's a really big problem. Actually, day-to-day stuff, this is very manageable. It's just a bit stressful.
Fantastic. Lucy Cohen, thank you very much. Is there anything you wanted to sort of plug? I know you've got a couple of books out. So the one is Forget the First Million.
Yeah, Forget the First Million. It's a decent read. It won't take you long. It's a fairly short book. I don't love long books. But no, and if anybody's listening, do check out Mazuma in terms of kind of our micro and small business offering. We're always on the lookout to work with like-minded businesses who might be able to enhance what we do.
Yeah, thank you very much.